have to start this review by saying I was actually pretty excited to see this movie. They had dropped a trailer not too long ago and it completely intrigued me. They were name dropping all these directors and inspirational people in the horror scene, such as Hideo Kojima, Guillermo del Toro, and other notable directors. When I see names like that in a promo clip, pretty much just singing the praises of this movie, and they're all by directors that I personally look up to, especially in the horror genre, I sit there thinking, okay, maybe this actually might be something cool. But after watching the movie, I think some directors' quotes shouldn't be used in advertisements and they shouldn't be taken at face value. I feel like when a director watches a movie, they see more than just the movie. They see the whole journey behind it and all the work that went into it. So it kind of softens their opinion a little bit because this movie definitely didn't deserve any of the praise that it got. I personally love slow burns. I especially love them when they pay off, when it makes you think back to everything you just saw and kind of question everything. Unfortunately, you immediately kind of realize where this movie is going, and the backstory and explanations were extremely unoriginal. They show things that demand more lore, but then gloss over it when it comes time to actually delve deep. They don't even put subtle hints in the background for you to inspect and question. I mean, there were a few that I look back to, and I'm like, that was kind of cool, but they don't really alter the story or change anything, and they just really have no impact. And I think personally, a really well-placed prop in the background can completely change your perspective on a movie sometimes after second viewing if there was a lot of work done with the story to make that prop in the background just have a lot of meaning. The set design in here just overall felt pretty empty and uninspired. And also the dialogue feels super unnatural, almost as if it's like you're reading a novel. I'm all for expressive dialogue with symbolism, but the lines lacked any punch and any true point to them. No complexity whatsoever. And it feels like they were reading straight off a script, especially the guy and his cousin. And speaking of the cousin, his voice feels like it's violating your ears every time he talks. It's not even the dialogue itself, it's the tone of his voice and delivery. It just scratches at your ears and you kind of want it to stop. It completely took me out of the experience. This movie won't really have you jumping out of your seat in pure terror, but it'll definitely have you looking at the screen, really creeped out, thinking, wow, that looks cool. But these scary moments don't really add any momentum to the story or have a real impact on the story as a whole. You can completely edit these parts out and it won't really change too much on the perspective of the characters or the story. They rely so heavily on the falling asleep trick for scares, and it feels like a way to show something that is creepy without committing to it, because oops, it's a nightmare. It never lets the imagery actually matter or stick around for very long, and these nightmare moments feel cheap because they're the coolest part of the movie, yet they have the shortest screen time. These moments would have hit way harder if they had more purpose instead of just being spooky little highlights you instantly wake up from. I'm all for ambiguity, but damn, don't leave every aspect to me to figure out. The monsters or creatures in this movie have very strong resemblance to something straight out of a Junji Ito graphic novel. Long necks, creepy faces, and exaggerated limbs. It looks like it was ripped straight off of one of those pages. And honestly, I don't mind that. I think it's actually pretty cool. When these horror scenes do happen, it's not just because they don't have any meaning behind them, but it's because they don't really affect the story whatsoever. You can completely edit these parts out, and it doesn't change the characters' perspectives for the most part, or really do anything for the story as a whole. The cinematography is also pretty good, but it's on the verge of being great. Some shots feel like they're trying to be deliberately out of place to hint at something, but they end up not feeling correct or just not very original or don't really have much meaning besides, hey, there was probably a monster on the ceiling at one point. I feel like this movie screams I want to be an Ari Aster film, but ends up being more of an imitation. When Oz Perkins' style works, it's like Longlegs. It leaves you feeling dark but elegantly twisted, but almost every Oz Perkins movie leaves me wanting more, even Longlegs. The acting feels forced, the cinematography feels forced, the narrative lacks substance, and it doesn't really keep you guessing. It just kind of keeps you confused. Another issue is the main character. She constantly feels like she is under the influence, which she probably is, but when something traumatizing happens, she barely reacts. She just kind of experiences it and screams or makes weird mummers and shrugs it off and moves on. It really makes the creepy scenes feel lackluster and almost meaningless, and have no real impact on the story overall. Oz Perkins is like a pocket full of change with a hole in it. By the end of the day, all of your change is gone and you're left with scraps that make you wish you checked your pocket sooner. He has great ideas and cool imagery, and I can commend him for going for what he thinks is visually cool, and he avoids a lot of horror tropes. But I think he struggles to tie his ideas to human experience. Instead of adding emotional weight or relatable grounding things, it ends up being twisted and dark just for the sake of being twisted and dark. If you can tie horror into something human, not something as basic as like the depression is the ghost, but something relatable, something real real people actually experience or fear emotionally, it adds complexity. This movie doesn't do that at all. When everything is finally unveiled, if someone were to explain the entire story to you at face value, you'd be like, that's kind of a basic story. But because the movie refuses to reveal much, you start thinking it's building something crazy. The anticipation feels earned, the world building feels deep, but then you look at the runtime and realize you only got 5 minutes left. Oz Perkins has kind of let me down a little bit as a director. I really enjoyed Longlegs, and when I saw that, I was like, wow, I can't wait to see what else this guy can create. But the last few movies, The Monkey and now this one, they just all have me leaving with the same feeling that I feel like I want more. I would probably give The Keeper a 7 out of 10. It's visually really cool looking and I haven't seen much like it, but it was kind of boring, and when you look back at it, it wasn't worth the trip. So I'll see you guys on the next review. Hope you enjoyed. Let me know down in the comments what you guys thought of the movie. If you've seen it already, I have hopefully a lingering feeling inside of me that this will be kind of a decisive film, and maybe there's just some things that I missed or I didn't really see. I would love to know what you guys thought of it down below. Have a nice one. Doses.